Hey, what's up everybody? Many people say that you can be whatever you want if you put your mind to it. While that is somewhat true, it might not actually make you truly happy. People at crossroads, such as high school seniors, college and university students, or even people who have a career, will ask the question on how to have a clear vision of my ideal career. So how do you really know? Today, I'm going to teach you 4 simple steps on how to have a clear vision of your ideal career. So, Color of the Gods asked me the question on YouTube, which professions map across well to different personalities? For practical purposes, I'm going to answer the question by mapping the individual to the career. Choosing an ideal career is clearly important. In a 2018 Deloitte study of millennials and Gen Zs found that they are motivated by values and jobs that provide growth opportunities and that have a higher value. A McKinsey report also found that with robotics and AI replacing much of human labor as we know it today, the economy is moving to become even more innovation-based. And creativity, as a result, is only possible through motivation. Simply put, the career that you find yourself in has to, number 1, motivate you, number 2, be valuable, number 3, challenge your growth, and number 4, involve a social life that you can enjoy. I actually talk about this in depth in my mini-series on intrinsic motivation, which I'll put in the cards above. It's a playlist that consists of 4 videos where I outline what is intrinsic motivation, why it is important, and the 3 ingredients that helps you get it. So when I talk about an individual being in a career that is satisfying for them, I basically mean that the social life that it involves has to be satisfying. So for example, if you're an introvert, you don't want to be in a situation which involves a lot of people work, a lot of movement, a lot of activity, because that will simply drain you. Bottom line is, it is a terrible idea to spend most of your waking life working a career that you don't like. So without further ado, here are 4 steps on how to have a clear vision of your ideal career. Step number 1, you need to know your personality. Personality plays a major role in our selection of jobs and whether we'll find something satisfying or not. And the Big 5 personality traits is the golden standard for personality assessments. Now, I've done other videos on personality, which you can find up here, and each of those videos talk about a different element of personality. I'm not going to spend a lot of time rehashing everything I've said before in this video, but I'll give some examples. So, like I said before, introverts shouldn't find themselves in an extroverted job. Open-minded people should look for jobs that involve a lot of exploration, and that's always changing, so it's stimulating. People higher in trait neuroticism, which is our stress tolerance, should look for jobs that are more customer relationship oriented, because people who are higher in trait neuroticism tend to be more in tune with other people's emotions. Also, people who are lower in trait conscientiousness are probably better off in careers that are more in the moment and that involves more multitasking and juggling. So ultimately, personality will affect the orientation of your job. Step number 2 is finding your interests. So personality is one thing, but its directionality is different. So for example, high trait openness, which is essentially our energy level on our creativity, it can be used on a variety of things. You can be creative in drawing, music, science, sports, pretty much anything. So when I talk about interests, I'm talking mostly about the environment which has nurtured your interest in different things. So the people who are in your family, your friends, your social circle, the things that you've learned in the past. So for example, if you grew up in a musical family, it's highly likely that your creativity will be used for musical things. That's just what you've been exposed to, which means you're more likely to be competent in it, in that you have a community that supports it, and that in general fosters intrinsic motivation. So an essential question then is, what have you been exposed to so far? And there's a lot of tools out there to see if it fits your interests. So one of the tools that I love using is ACT's World of Work map. And this provides you with a bird's eye view of the world of work and what may fit your interests. Click into it and see what types of jobs are out there which balances people with things, ideas with data. So even though how we categorize jobs in terms of data versus people and things versus ideas is generally a good framework to view the world, you gotta take into account that things are always changing. Few people predicted that computer jobs will be such a critical component of our economy 100 years ago. So, like I said before, these things correlate with personality. Extroverts tend to prefer jobs that involve people. People who are high in trait openness tend to prefer ideas over data. That's just our orientation. In the future, I'll be producing more videos that talks about your interests and how it aligns with jobs, the soft skills necessary to do well in these jobs. So make sure you click the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you get notified when these videos come out. The third step is finding out your skills. Once you've figured out your personality and your interests, the next question really is, do you have pre-existing skills that allow you to be successful in that job? If you have the personality for it, the skills should come more naturally to you. If you don't have the personality for it, then the skills developed would feel more forced. So a good way to illustrate this is that personality and interests are like the roots of a tree. If the foundation is deep, it will allow for you to grow taller as a tree. What grows above is essentially the skills that you build on top of your personality and interests. But even the types of skills that you develop would be very different. So in the case of musicians, the skills developed would vary depending on personality. Musicians who are higher in trait openness may prefer more freestyling, original compositions, and experimenting with music. While on the other hand, people who are lower in trait openness would probably prefer playing off the score. However, to execute either masterfully, you do need to develop the skills for it. Sometimes skills require going back to school, and if you're considering entering graduate school, I would actually recommend you to watch this video here, where I discuss the process on how to decide whether to go get a master's degree or not. So check out the card. The last and final step involves learning about your career, and it involves research work because you need to do your homework for this. So it's very important to do this because you're going to spend most of your waking life doing this job. And essentially the objective is to assess the benefits and risks of the job. Is this job going to grow? Is it at risk of being replaced? For example, I discussed in this podcast here with Dr. Alistair Johnson about what jobs are more likely to be replaced by AI or automation. So in order to research a job, there are a variety of things you can do, and I would actually recommend you to take several steps. Step number one is to just search online. So there are a lot of good resources online such as onetcenter.org or careeronestop.org, and these websites list out what does the job entail, what are the risks, how much you get paid, and whether it's a growing industry or not. So there's a variety of things that has already been done and researched for you. The second thing I would recommend you to do is to interview an expert about the job. And so I actually interview a lot of experts in my podcasts. And if that's something you're interested in, then go check out my podcast series because I interview a variety of experts in different fields that talk about what they do in their field. And that may be helpful to you. Also, one thing I would recommend you to do is to interview the person on the job. If they're in your network, just ask if you can sit down with them for a coffee and ask about the job because that's something you're exploring. And from my experience, most people are willing to do this because they themselves have walked the path. Especially if that person is successful and quite secure in what they do, they themselves probably have been helped along the way. And so they too are willing to help those who are early on in their journey. In fact, I've had people who look up my business number online and give me a call and ask if they could interview me for 30 minutes to learn more about the job. And I'm generally glad to do so and explain what I do and what are the things to get them started. One thing I would actually recommend is to ask whether you can shadow them for a day. If you shadow them for a day, you can learn what they do on a day-to-day basis, and that will inform your decision as well. This is very important because interviewing one person can give you one perspective, but their perspective will be quite different from someone who is just getting started or people who are working under him or her. So it's important to get more well-rounded perspectives on this. And the last thing I would recommend is to get some real hands-on experience through co-ops or internships. You can ask the school that you're at to set it up, or you can ask to set it up yourself. These steps should set you on the right path to find your ideal career. I actually have a program that guides you through each of these steps in depth from the personality testing to the job analysis so that you can choose your career with certainty. Just go to my website in the description below and download the free resource or contact me through any of my other social media links. At the end of the day, Finding a career is an iterative and recursive process where you got to repeat over and over again. In fact, people often revisit this question throughout their lives because values and interests change. It's quite normal for people to change their career several times throughout their lives. However, due diligence is necessary because this is so important. I'm curious to what other ideas you guys have on finding your career. If you're a little older like me, drop a nugget of wisdom below and share it. If you're in a process of looking for a career, let me know if this helped and what else you're doing to figure things out. As always, if you like this video, click the like button and share it. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe and click the notification bell so that you receive updates of future videos. Take care, everybody.